Muito boa noite, galera. Vou começar aqui a live com a Susan, do Boston College, hoje. Vamos falar sobre ser o suficiente, sobre como a faculdade de Direito pode dirigir você para uma vida cheia de significado. Estou super animado para essa live. Daqui a pouco a Susan já entra aqui comigo e já vamos poder animado aqui hoje, né? Mandem suas perguntas já no box aqui embaixo para que a gente possa responder as suas perguntas. Hello! Olá!
Ai, boa tarde.
Boa tarde, tudo bem, Susan?
Sim, tudo bem, tudo bem. Legal.
Ah, que bom! Obrigado por ter aceito o meu convite para participar conosco hoje.
De nada, é o meu prazer participar com você sempre, Júnior.
Obrigado demais. Gente, que alegria ter a Susan aqui hoje, né? Como eu comentei, a gente vai falar sobre You Are Enough, né? Você é o suficiente, e como How Law School Can Lead You to a Meaningful Life, né? Como a faculdade de Direito, né? Como seguir na carreira jurídica pode levar você para uma carreira de sucesso, para uma carreira cheia de significado, né? Cheia de meaning, realmente. Então, estou muito animado com essa possibilidade de conversar hoje, né? Lembrando também para o pessoal que tem perguntas aí dos mais variados tipos sobre o que a Susan faz, sobre todos os processos que acontecem, né, para admissão de LLMs. Então, fiquem à vontade para mandar tudo aqui, para que a gente possa, então, ter uma conversa bem bacana, né? Susan, once again, thank you so much for joining us. It's definitely wonderful to have you here with us. And to start this live, I'd like to ask you if you could introduce yourself a little bit for those of you for those of us who haven't had the chance to meet you before.
Okay. Well, it's really a pleasure to be with you, Junior. I know we've talked quite a lot together, and I see that we have many friends who have joined this live, and it's just so wonderful to see many of our colleagues who have been to our beautiful city of Boston and in our institution. So before I introduce myself, one of my first reactions is to look at all the friendly faces of the amazing people who are joining this live right now. And I'm incredibly excited to be here. For those of you who I haven't yet met, I'm incredibly looking forward to meeting all of you in the future. Não será o meu grande prazer nossa lá no futuro, com uma oportunidade de participar com você no futuro, com uma próxima live, ou se você quer visitar-nos a Boston, será sempre invitados. So that to me is like one of the most important, which is to make sure that everyone feels welcome, because that's what life is all about, and that's what leads you to a meaningful life. I'm going to tell you, when we talk about life, I'm just going to show you very briefly that I have turkeys in my
Oh,
backyard.
wonderful!
Right now it's springtime here in Massachusetts, and we have the nature is joining us for the live. And for me, it's really amazing to be surrounded by just all of this positive energy and expression for a better future for all of us. I think you can probably tell from my level of excitement. I'm truly deeply honored to be having this opportunity with you all right now, because in this exact moment here in the United States, we have just received the verdict of the George Floyd trial. Derek Chauvin has been convicted on all 3 counts of the criminal charges against him, and the American people right now are incredibly emotional. And I have been watching television and waiting for the President of the United States to join us in making a statement. So for me, gosh, in terms of talking about what does it mean to have a meaningful life, in the law, it's to be passionate about the things you care about. And tonight is a perfect example of the importance of the dignity of all people. And I'm just I just feel very humble that I'm able to share this very emotional moment with all of you here in Brazil right now.
Wow, it's definitely a wonderful moment. Yes, it's a big win for human rights, and as I understand, probably a good precedence as well for
Yeah.
police violence in the future, right?
Yes, because the police chief of the Minnesota Police Department, as well as the longest serving police officer, got on the witness stand and testified against the individual, which means that the even the law enforcement broke the silence of the police oath and actually spoke about justice at a very important time when the people of the United States really needed to experience accountability for unlimited state action and state violence against vulnerable people. And that is what it's not just about now, but it's about the history of indigenous and minorities in the United States and their status here.
Wow, wonderful. Yes, thank you so much for bringing that up, actually, because I did see some news in the afternoon that we would be getting the verdict today or tonight, but
Yes.
I didn't know that it was already out. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yes, yes. It was about an hour and a half ago, and it occurred in the most ordinary fashion. Any person who breaks the law is entitled not to incriminate themselves under the Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. They have the right to remain silent, but they have to stand before justice and be accountable. And no one is above the law, not even the law enforcement. And I think that's a very important message that needs to be heard here in the United States. Clearly, we needed to hear that. And hopefully around the world, it will be a sign of hope as well.
Yes, most definitely. Yes. Wow, how wonderful. Yes, we couldn't have started in a better fashion. So it's wonderful. It's very special. Uh, what a day to be remembered, definitely.
Yes.
Well, Susan, I was thinking, right? So just so people understand a little bit of your background, you work at Boston College, right?
Yes. So I am the director of international programs at Boston College Law School. And I practiced law, and I still practice law, but I practice now. I used to practice corporate finance, and I did that for 10 years. And I'm a member of the New York, Connecticut, and Massachusetts bars. But I am practicing right now international human rights law. And I'm doing that because it's what I'm really passionate about. So that's what I am doing through the opportunity that I have at Boston College Law School to work with the master's students from around the world who come to BC to study.
Yes, that's great. And when you say that, so are you closely? Do you like teach the LOMs? How does that work?
Right. I teach at Boston College. I teach the LLM students Introduction to the United States Legal System, which includes a combination of constitutional law, tort law, and professional responsibility, legal ethics. And so we have the opportunity to look very critically at the U.S. legal system and to see where its strengths and its weaknesses lie. And from the point of view in which I invite international students to give their perspective and not just teach the American perspective, the North American perspective on the system. So those of you who have either followed, there have been many wonderful programming with Tanya Salvador, Kayla Farias, and Pedro Lenza, and also Daniela Urosa through Lex Latinx and Verano. will know that we have been dedicated to making access to justice and access to legal education one and the same thing during the pandemic. And for us, that is what helps us to lead a meaningful life, this team. And Junior, you're always been an important participant, and I'm really happy today to also now be able to speak to you through your program and be able to continue to spread the word of the importance of the commitment to law and the rule of law around the world.
Oh, so nice to hear that. Thank you so much for your kindness. So, Susan, first of all, one of the questions that I get a lot here is people who are concerned whether they are enough or not to apply for law school in the US, whether it is for a summer institute, for an LOM. People are always concerned that their English will not be enough, that maybe they're not smart enough. And I wanted to have you, who is somebody who have had tremendous experience with all kinds of students, to help me to spread this message about what you think. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I do have some thoughts on that, but I think, why don't you, ask Bruno Freire, ask Claudio Colnago, ask all of our LLM students who graduated from Brazil, ask all of our visiting scholars. You are enough, and we are here to support you as part of that community. Ask Paulo Barroso, Professor Barroso. Of course you are enough. And it's my job to make sure that you know this message. But the message already comes because the community is already here. We are already here with you. And so, what you see is what you get. We are here. And all you need to do is reach out to one of those many people and hear it directly from themselves, although you can definitely hear it from me. And let me, I have to tell you, you're not going to believe, but I have to show you one more thing. This is the male turkey.
Wow. Wow. Wow, he's so close.
He's like 10, he's 2 meters away from me right now. Luckily, there's a window. And I'll tell you, I want to use that as a metaphor, an analogy. Right now, this is the mating season, so he's trying to show the females that he is enough. And he puts his feathers proudly out, and he makes us see the glory that it is to be a member of his community. And really, like when we're talking amongst ourselves as human beings, we really have to honor each other as human beings and allow each other to show our true potential. And we see this example, it's all around us. Other human beings that we respect and mentor, who inspire us, are so important. But also the nature is telling you, the universe is telling you. If you're spiritual, your spirit guide is telling you that you are enough. I think that if you are ever in a space where you are made to feel that you are not enough, then that space does not deserve you. And so you should move on, and you should go to those places where you are celebrated for the person that you are and for the accomplishments that you bring to the table. And for me, it's always been a joy and a pleasure to meet people from all around the world, which is, of course, my reason for existence. But I have been inspired by amazing people within the Brazilian community who have also taught me that. Professor Kazuo Watanabe, who said, people deserve the dignity of the small claims court system. They deserve to have their disputes resolved. Carmen Sofia Almeida, who teaches not only in Brazil, but also in Argentina. Sergio Teixeira, who is teaching across the world, and who is engaging across the world with people to really connect. There are incredibly inspiring Brazilian leaders in the community. I am thinking of also judges in Sao Paulo, Cristina Santini and Marco Sonodera, who are doing incredible work in their community. Simone Gomez, just incredible people who are really doing everything that they can. Samuel Brazil in Victoria, who has a master's in artificial intelligence and computer science, who is studying the Media Lab here at MIT to really understand the connection between the future of justice and the use of artificial intelligence. Just really exciting projects. You just need to look all around you. Your colleagues are doing that work.
That's so wonderful. And I see some people who have studied at Boston College who are watching this live.
Yeah.
You are super welcome to join us in the end. My Instagram has already updated so I can invite more people to join us. And Susan is already, I guess, kind of used to how we Brazilians love to gather people in. We always have some extra space, right? So please,
Absolutely.
when we get to the end, we'd love to have you here just to say hi and to encourage those who are watching and who would like to continue their studies internationally.
Absolutely.
So thanks for watching.
Yes, thank you, Junior. And by the way, I mean, for those of you who know Junior, I am telling you, Junior is unbelievably brilliant. This is not just a question of his ability to gather so many people and to really inspire so many people. But I have had conversations with him on access to justice and freedom of religious belief under the constitutions in various different legal systems. He is somebody to be paying attention to as a future star of the research in Brazil. I mean, I can't say enough good things, Junior. You know that many people are relying on you to continue and doing what you do. So I really, you know, I want to encourage you and help you to encourage others also to continue to accomplish your absolute best potential.
It is so kind of you to say that, and coming from somebody like you, I don't have words. You know, I kind of feel like we could end this live right now because all has been said, but I won't private those who are watching us to, you know, just hear some more insight from you. So thanks a lot for all this, of the compliments and everything. Thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome.
It has been wonderful. And you know, Susan, something that I also must say, you always make people feel welcome. Whenever I speak with you, I feel like so boosted, you know, I feel so excited to move on with my studies in life. So thank you for being that person. Thank you for, you know, walking the walk.
Oh,
really what you say.
Thank you so much. Well, I love the theme that you suggested, how law school can lead you to a meaningful life, because that is really the goal. We are not studying law because of random interaction with a legal system. We're studying because somewhere down the line, the law impacted you in a way that inspired you to think about justice, inspired you to think about how we can do better, whether that happens to be in the business field or how we can try to connect intellectual property and investment around the world in a way that is socially conscious and environmentally respectful. There are so many questions in the future that still need to be answered, and really relying on all of you to really think about this and do the best research that you can, so that you can help continue the conversation, to continue going forward. And for me, that's what's meaningful about the law. It's not about making the money. I always say this: if you love what you do, the money comes along with it. And actually, there comes a point where it really doesn't really matter about the money at all. What it really matters about is the connections that you make and what you hold in your heart, and help you to feel at peace and to feel sustained and to have the energy to jump up in the morning and go again and do it again. and never to give up. So this is why you want to have a legal career that you love and that you are committed to.
Yes, I love that. And let me just ask really quickly. I see some questions are going up,
Okay.
and just to make sure that we don't miss any of them, if you guys would be so kind to send it in the question box so that I can just click later and then it shows up in our screen. That would be great if you'd be so kind to send it through the question button on the bottom.
Yes,
So
and Junior, because I'm holding my phone, if you could tell me what the questions are, I'll be happy to answer them.
yes, most definitely. I'll do that. I'll do that in just a couple of minutes.
I'll put my phone in the ring here, right? We all have the ring. Now you also see my backyard. Great. So if there's a random, animal or something that comes through, or you might see my dad doing his exercises, but otherwise, maybe that's too much brightness, right? It's too bright. Let me brightness. So yeah, I would love to hear from other people who have joined, who have questions about what the practice of law looks like after 20 years. How to take care of yourself, how to stay inspired, and how to keep going is really important.
Perfect. Yes, definitely. But if you wouldn't mind, if we could start a little bit earlier, or before in the career, if we were to imagine a timeline.
Yeah.
Most of the people who follow me here on Instagram, they're people who want to study abroad, right? And kind of what I say is like studying law somewhere else kind of thing. Or studying law around the world is what I'm doing here. And no problem. And I try to help people in their applications and, all through the process of signing up for law school and, just the whole admissions process. So before we go into the career and all the ideas into law school, I was wondering if you'd have some, just some general thoughts for those who are thinking of applying to an LOM program. If you have any insights, something that could bring some positive differentiation to their application, that would be great. We'd love to hear that from you if you'd be able to, just comment on that first.
Sure, Junior, my pleasure. I think a big piece of it is, do you care? So show us that you care. And the way that we notice this is that we look at the way that you describe yourself in your personal statement. Are you telling us in your personal statement why it is that you're interested in a master's program? And specifically, why are you interested in a master's program that is at a particular institution? So what is it that institution offers that connects between your interests and what they offer, so that when the person who's reading can really understand why they should be looking at your application, and making sure that that personal statement is specific to the institution and is not just general. So that's a very important part of making a successful application. But part of that comes from the natural desire that you have to be at a particular place. So if you're really showing that you're excited about it, of course you're going to look at some of those things. And how do you do that? Well, who are the professors that are teaching the subjects that you're interested in? What are those subjects, and how do they fit into what you've already, either that you've been studying or something that happened to you that inspires you to follow a certain area of law. So this is what we're looking for. We're looking to see that being at a program has meaning for you. So I think that's our most important goal or desire in looking at an application.
It's incredible because when you describe it, it sounds super simple, right? You just need to show why why you want to study with us, who you are, why should we, look at your application, and it's wonderful. A lot of work is put into that, of course, and that's part of the effort that shows that you care and that it's meaningful for you. But you just simplified it so well. I loved it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Your resume and your transcript. The transcript you can show classes, but not everywhere do you have a chance to really take specific classes to prove I really love this area of law. Sometimes the program is already set for you, so you're
Yeah.
not always able to show it that way. And on your resume, you might be able to maybe do a particular job if you happen to get lucky with an internship or an experience, but not everybody has access to a full range of employment opportunity. So we sometimes have to appreciate that we work so that we can live. And so there's no shame or any judgment that you had to work in a supermarket or that you had to help out your family for a year so you couldn't work. In fact, these are some of the most important things that are on your resume, is that you should be saying in your personal statement, I am not just like everybody else. I am different, and here's what makes me different. Here's how I survived the pandemic. What an excellent way to use subject matter for a personal statement for next year, anyone who is applying. What did you do during the pandemic? How did that create meaning for you? And why it is that therefore you're going to now go and apply to law school so that you can fix something that you saw that didn't go right, that something that went wrong, or suffering, or in an inefficiency that you observed and you thought, where is the justice? Or where is the investment? What are the financial mechanisms or incentives to do better? Because that's what we're trying to do in the law, right? We're trying to complement the other areas in the social sciences to provide solutions to improve the standard of living for human beings everywhere. So that's what your job is as a lawyer. So the pandemic provides you a huge opportunity to comment on it and to tell us what you think we should be doing better.
Wonderful. That's great. I'll go ahead and put up some questions, and don't worry, I can read them here, okay?
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and put up the first one here from Suenzi Costa. Would you say the United States wants international students to study there and work there?
Yeah, so I would say absolutely. And I think I understand the question, because the question should be, and that's very diplomatically said, Suendi Costa, very diplomatically said, based on all the other behavior that you saw in the 4 years beforehand, what kind of message does the United States actually giving to the rest of the world? I actually had the opportunity to confront a member of the State Department in Washington with that. He gave us a Fulbright presentation on opportunities for a Fulbright scholarship. And the first thing that he did was he put a picture up of, what's his name, from the last State Department official under the Trump administration. And then he went through the rest of his slide presentation. And then when he was done, he waited for the polite clapping. And then we started to raise our hands. And what I said to him was, well, thank you for your presentation, but what you say and what you do are not the same thing. So you cannot put a picture up of Secretary of State Pompeo and at the same time tell me that I should be recruiting students into international programs, because the international community sees what you do and they hear what you say. And when these two things are not the same, then we are going to believe what you do over what you say. So what I like to let you know is that we were fighting here in the United States to confront the officials who were trying to pretend like it was business as usual and that they could just come in and give us a slide presentation and we would just accept that. And we didn't. And then in addition to that, we fought hard for our students to receive visas here in the United States under some of the most adverse and ugly xenophobic circumstances that you could imagine in the fall during the pandemic. So we had a crisis of a pandemic, and we had a crisis of structural racism and xenophobia in the United States, led by the highest levels in this country. And how did the American people respond? So going back to Ms. Costa's answer, the American people said, we can do better. And that's what we have today. So I want you to take that and know that the majority of the American people do not agree with that position, and that what we do agree with is that Black lives matter, right? Vidas quilombolas contam. And also that everybody's voice matters and is important in this country, and that George Floyd's life today serves as an example of not restoration, but accountability, and that is the way that we are going to move forward. We cannot just give up. And in order for us to be better, we need to hear from you, because you make us better.
You're so wonderful. That was so great. Thank you so much. What a lesson in an answer. That was so good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'll go ahead and put another question that was the continuation from Swendy's question. Thank you so much for participating and sending your questions.
I love it, Swendy. I love your question. Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's see. Let's just say that I feel like an international student myself. I was born here in the United States, so many of you know that I did not live in the United States my whole life. When I was little, I lived in Italy, and then I came back, and I was treated like a stranger in my own country. This is in the 1970s in New York City. So I am not saying that I was in some countryside where nobody existed. And in that particular experience, I learned what it felt like to come as an international student as a kid, and to be treated like somebody who did not fit in and did not belong. And somehow no one knew how to solve the problem of this little girl who spoke more than one language. Half of the time they did not understand what I was saying. And this taught me that what was wrong wasn't wrong with me. It was something wrong with them. They were the ones with the limitation. And now that I have learned that lesson myself, when I bring international students who want to come to our program, the reason is so that you can teach them better. So you are the example of a person that they get to meet and they get to know, so that they can be better educated about the world outside of the United States, so that they can learn about culture, customs, different religions, different attitudes, different ways to solve legal problems. Everybody has, as we say in Italian, tutto il mondo è paese. The whole world is the same as your town. But at the end of the day, we solve these things sometimes with different responses. And so we can learn from each other that our way is not the only way. And I think it's very important to counter and think about American exceptionalism. What can we do to teach Americans that their way is not the only way? And so my way of enjoying, the way I enjoy doing that, is by bringing the international community to a place like Boston College, where you can then engage with each other, and hopefully they will learn something from you. You will definitely learn something from us, and I hope they will learn something from you.
Great, great. That was quite the answer. Thank you so much again. Let me see what other questions we have here. Well, there is a question here, maybe you'd be able to answer as well. If an LLM in environmental and energy law is a good option, I don't know, would you have something to say about that?
Well, absolutely. I think there are two areas that are incredibly interesting and also require urgent attention. So I believe that environmental law is incredibly, incredibly important. What we have learned in this worldwide pandemic is that we are all connected, and that the virus respects no political borders. It lives in our environment. And our environment, we pretend like it's only what we see directly in front of us. but we don't realize it is constantly changing and being influenced by and impacting everything that is going on around us, whether we can see it or not. And so it is incredibly important to learn the lesson of the pandemic and realize that we have to care for the full community of living things on this earth. And if we cannot care about other human beings, we really have problems, because then how can we care about trees who are communicating with each other through the nervous systems established by the fungi that they share amongst each other, and the understanding that trees talk to each other. And that is actually happening, which is one of the reasons why I'm showing you all the turkeys in my backyard right now. There's a reason why they are here. This is a sign of a healthy environment. The animals will not be here if they cannot feel safe and comfortable. So I think that what we all as human beings need to do is respect the dignity of all life, especially understanding the dignity of human life and the lessons that we have learned through this pandemic, and understand how interrelated that is to the environment and environmental law, and how we use energy in a way that will be sustainable for future generations. The indigenous peoples of the Americas know more about this than we Westerners who have occupied this land have ever understood. And we can do a lot better in listening to them and understanding how they see the protection of future generations as an integral part of living today. So that's one area of where I recommend that would be very interesting for all of us to think about, is environmental law. The second area, which is extremely popular right now, is cybersecurity. And the reason why this is happening, and therefore intellectual property courses right now are extremely popular with us at BC, is because we watched the election system literally hanging on the balance of whether or not we could rely on sophisticated computer systems to protect us from the interference by other governments. So you may have heard that in the United States, we expelled a significant number of individuals who were part of another country's system, a foreign service, on the basis that they were monitoring for years and influencing for years the health and security of the American political process. And so this now has become a subject of intense interest and conversation around the world, in the European Union, as well as in the Americas, in ASEAN, as well as in the OAS. So we really have to think about how we are going to be approaching the future to protect our different national interests, but at the same time also protecting the privacy of individuals and allowing us to use communication freely, because we cannot use cybersecurity as a sword or a shield when the government misbehaves or does not act. And we have seen examples of this in Nigeria, in Myanmar, in the Philippines, and elsewhere, where data is being manipulated and used as a sword in order to protect governments who are not applying human rights principles or undermining the responsibility to protect under the UN Charter.
Yes, wonderful. So it's great that you brought that up. It's good that people will keep an eye on those areas, right? So cybersecurity and environmental law, I'll definitely make sure that I, focus on that as well. Okay, so another question here from Cindy Garcia. Does Boston College offer full scholarships? It's already in my university's list.
Well, it's such an honor for you to think of us. And it's so exciting to hear that. But I have to say, we do not yet offer full scholarships. However, a couple of things. You, the future Brazilians, please organize and come together and establish a fund to assist students who want to come to the United States, especially Boston College alumni, those of you who are out there who have participated in programming. Think about this next generation and what they would love to accomplish, and let's protect their future. I say that because I'm going to turn 50 in 2 weeks, and I'm starting to look, and I'm starting to look back on my career and saying, where should I be investing for future generations? Well, what we've been doing is reaching almost 50% scholarship during the pandemic, and that is a very significant amount. But at the same time, you also have organizations within Brazil who are trying to organize around helping students. But we all know that the issue right now is the currency exchange rate with the reais and the American dollar. So how do you get past that? Please look at the Fulbright program, because it helps to give you the opportunity to go through the U.S. system and see if you can become one of the Fulbright recipients to come. The ladies who are located in PUC-Rio from EdUSA are ready to help you. So reach out to them. Look for EdUSA in Rio, because they are actually managing the whole system throughout South America, but in particular in Brazil. So they are right in your backyard. Make good use of them and go visit when you can be in person. If not, email and connect with them there. They will be your advocates. And in addition to that, there's independent international funding. So take a look at the American Association of University Women. They give scholarships to women graduates, regardless of what country you may be from. Also, take a look at, in general, at affinity scholarships. The United States is the land of immigrants, and Boston has one of the largest populations of Brazilians in the United States, if not the largest population. Take a look at groups that are Brazilian American scholarships for Brazilians and descendants of Brazilians, because there are people like us out here who have now had a couple of generations. We're a little bit more financially stable, and we want to help support you. And the other way in which I do it is not about the money, because when I did law school, my father just simply said to me, I can't pay for your law school. So I incurred all of that debt on my own. In doing so, you know, I really tried to turn around and then do something more with my career after paying that down, including mentoring students and helping them get internships and jobs. So when you are done and finished with the LLM, if you're doing well here and you can get an internship with a judge, then the law firms will really want to hire you, because now you have been seen by a judge and you have reached that level of practice that the judge respects you and trusts you, and that makes the legal community very interested in you. So those internships are unpaid with the judges, but they're very prestigious. So yes, you might not be able to afford everything on the front end, but it will pay off on the back end. It's an investment that you're making into the future. So that's, I hope that you would try to think about it from that perspective. And I really understand, because I was very freaked out and overwhelmed by the amount of money that I was borrowing myself. But when your parents are immigrants and they tell you, look, it's just not there, the money is not there, then you do what you have to do, you know, to make that happen, because that's the opportunity, that's the next necessary step.
Mm-hmm. Yes, great. It's wonderful that you mentioned that, and I do plan to bring up more people who have had the experience of getting a loan in the U.S. for LLMs, for being an LLM student. I think they will be able to give you a lot of insight, for those of you who are watching, a lot of insight on all the, you know, all the details on a lease, on how does it work, on the agreements, on having a co-signer, etc., etc. So keep tuned, and we will and I'll definitely make an effort to bring some people who can speak about that as well.
Thanks, Junior. That's huge. And I just want to mention two other companies. We don't endorse any companies because, and I used to work in corporate finance, as I told you. So we don't endorse companies because I can't monitor how they price their loans. And I don't want to be involved in judging how they price their loans. But I do know that there are two companies that are doing that, and it's Empower Finance as well as Prodigy Finance. Those are two who are giving loans to international students to come to law school in the United States. But as you said, I'm sure that you will also have other experts who will come and explain that. And actually, I'd be very interested in hearing if there are any innovations that you learn about. Please let me know, because we want to make sure that that we can give people the most possible opportunities.
I definitely will. Would you mind to repeat the other one as well? I've heard the Prodigy and
Power. So it's like Power Finance.
Okay.
Yeah, take a look at those. Prodigy Finance has lower interest rates, but they are stricter in giving out the loans. Prodigy is more flexible, but they cost more overall. So that makes sense, right, from a corporate finance perspective, based on their risk assessment.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. Wonderful. That's great. So if some of you have some other questions you'd like to ask, please keep sending. You see, it's a lot of knowledge available to us, so let's not waste this opportunity. and while people are thinking about the questions they might wanna ask, if you don't mind, don't worry. I was also thinking, Susan, we spoke about, you know, meaning in law and everything else. And if you don't mind sharing with us a little bit, how did, you know, going into the academia, going into an university kind of made part of your career? Because I feel like that's a lot of giving back to all the community that, you know, kind of raised you and everything else. So if you wouldn't mind sharing something like that, or like,
Sure.
Why did you decide to become a professor?
Well, you know, one of the things that I noticed was that the work that I was doing, sorry for a second, because I just burned dinner on a live.
I'm
So
sorry.
anybody here who's a mom who's like also cooking at the same time, I think you know what I'm feeling like, or any dad during the pandemic who's trying to like feed everybody in the house maybe can relate to this special event. So I actually is like too much smoke, but it's gonna be fun.
I'm sorry.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna actually step outside of the house. So now you'll get to sit in the backyard with me. That'll be fun.
Okay.
Hang on for a second. So we'll be in the nature for the rest of this one. Oh my goodness, there's the turkey right in front of my door.
Oh, there you go.
There's the other one. They just really not gonna. So I am literally sitting down with my friend over here, wherever he is, right there. And that's fine. Ellen, if they start coming after me, I'll run back inside the house.
Sounds good.
So I think, you know, what ended up happening for me was I was working in giving loans. So essentially, we were doing cash flow transactions at asset-based lending. And I did it for about 10 years. And it came to the point where the term sheets were very similar. And it was basically create the documents and repeat transaction, start over again, you know, here we go, next transaction, same thing. And for those of you who do this work, you'll know that those loan documents, the main loan document is easily 120 pages plus 10 ancillary agreements, including guarantees, mortgages, perfections of security interest, promissory notes, all the stuff, right? And after you do about, you know, I don't know, 200 of those in, you know, over the course of time, if not more, you know, you reach a point where you're like, what exactly am I doing this for? And I think there was a psychological component also. It stopped getting challenging. It stopped getting, yes, Control C, Control V, Claudio,
Hmm.
copy, paste. Oh my God. And, I was like, okay, this is not working. In the meantime, the United States was supposedly going into Iraq to restore democracy. And I was like, is that really such a good idea? And also, I don't think we have Security Council approval for this. What resolution are we relying on? And it really started to remind me of law school, the things that I was really passionate about to begin with. And this didn't make any sense to me, because I didn't understand the logic. So that kind of inspired me, and that's what, between the boringness for me personally, and I'm not judging anyone who loves to do the work, but for me personally, I hit my limit there, and I said, what's next? And so for me, it was this fascination of the authorization of use of force, and does it really accomplish the goals that it claims to be accomplishing? So I wrote my master's thesis. Oh my God, I do have to move because that's about as close as I'm willing to be. And I wrote my master's thesis. Are you serious, chica? Muévete. Move.
I have to laugh. It's
I
so funny.
know. Well, I mean, she's coming to me. I have no food. And so like that's just like freaking me out, man. But I have an idea. I'm gonna do this. This is my bird feeder. That's
Oh,
my bird.
nice.
There's the bird feeder. Go ahead, knock yourself out. She'll stay there and she'll leave me out of and I'll show you guys, like, she's going right for it.
There you go.
So what ended up happening for me at that point, I just decided that, I needed to go back and actually invest in something that I thought was meaningful and that actually
Hmm.
inspired me to ask questions that did not seem like my colleagues we were just taking for granted as a reality. And that just didn't work for me. I didn't think these things were legal, and it didn't make sense. So I went back and I got my LLM in international law, and it just inspired, me to keep going. I think though that there was something going on psychologically in the back of my mind, because I was also paying off my loans at that moment. I only had like a few $1,000s left. So I think that one of the things that affected me psychologically was, now that I no longer have to think about those loans, I can now think about the things I'm actually interested in. So this, I think, was playing a major role. I just wasn't really being honest with myself about why it was that I was practicing corporate law.
Hmm.
So it almost was like I had a feeling of a sense of a release. Okay, I can now do those things because I've paid off that debt.
Hmm.
But I also think that, I was 3 years a paralegal plus 10 more years in corporate finance, and that's a long career already. So
It
it was
is.
time for a change. And the North American experience is that you can reinvent yourself. You're not stuck in one space. Like if you want to change or do something different, it's okay, and it's not seen in a bad way. And I think that that's a very American, and not just the North American, but also I think a very Brazilian thing too, right, Junior?
Mhm. Yeah, it's getting more and more popular, and I totally agree with it. People are living up to like 70, 80 years old. So yeah, maybe when we are 18, we can't really choose for all that long, right?
Exactly. You change, people change, your interests will change, and you should adapt and be part of that. And just listen to your own inner voice, and believe in yourself, because you understand yourself better than anyone else can, and you deserve and owe it to yourself to do that kind of introspection and find out how you can make it work with what you have in front of you.
Wow. Wow again. We should probably do like a quote book after this live, because honestly, Susan, you are great. It's wonderful. It's so good to hear from you here. Uh, I'm thinking, it has been almost an hour. It has like flown by. Time has gone by so fast.
Mm,
It's wonderful that whenever we're having a really good time, time just goes by so fast, right? So if some of you who are watching who have studied at Boston College want to step in, say hi,
Mhm.
and just, just say something nice to Susan, you all will be welcome to do that. Just click on the camera icon down here, and I'll just accept your invite.
And I just want to also say one thing also. I want to apologize to everyone because I was also very, very active earlier last year and at the end of this past year. But many of you might know, some of you might know, my dad was very sick, not with COVID, but he had a heart condition and he had a surgery. And because of COVID, I kept him here in my house. And as you can see from me burning the dinner tonight, that it's really hard to juggle all of those things. And so I feel like to some of my friends, I feel like I haven't done enough and I still owe you, especially Professor Juiz Teixeira in Pernambuco and Gustavo Ferreira Santos at La Católica de Pernambuco. I know, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm remembering you. So I just want you to know that I am going to come through, but I just needed to be a human being for a little bit, and I couldn't put on my superwoman cape the whole time this year.
It's incredible, we are all, it's wonderful what, some people have been doing lately, starting to show how much our our real life, our fragilities, our vulnerability is actually what shows that we are strong. And I'm so thankful you brought that up, in such an important theme as we have of this live today about meaningful lives. Being vulnerable, being able to be vulnerable is all about living a meaningful life, not only a life that, kind of an Instagram life as we play about, right? So thank you so much. It's wonderful that you are so that you are so wonderful.
Oh my gosh, Junior, you're the one who's like coming up with these amazing quotes, like showing your vulnerability as a way to demonstrate trying to live a meaningful life. That is so extraordinary what you just said. And I'll definitely be thinking about that a lot tonight as I go through the motions of restoring my house stability a little bit, but also just taking care of the day-to-day things that happen. But also, sometimes you have to make difficult decisions in a leadership position, and they're not easy. And you watching people's lives being affected by some of those decisions. And so understanding that vulnerability is a form of meaning and a form of strength. Oh, and so that's just my suggestion.